Hello, welcome to part 4 of my Android testing series. In this tutorial, we're going to get started writing Espresso tests for our important to-dos app. So I'll leave a link in the description to that repository if you'd like to follow along. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is in your virtual device, you want to be sure you disable animations. So we're going to open up launch our virtual device, and if you go into the settings, so let's scroll down here, and if you click on the gear icon, we can go into the settings, and then down in under system, we can go into developer options. Here we can scroll down past networking. Great, and then here under the drawing section, we can see window animation scale, transition animation scale, animator duration scale, and we can just make sure that these are turned off. So this will prevent our test from being flaky due to some animation interfering with the test. So with that out of the way, we can another useful tool that you can use when writing UI tests is here you can launch the app and you can use this layout inspector. So if you go under the tools menu and you select layout inspector, this will be really useful for when you want to inspect the different views and the view hierarchy of your app. You'll be able to see, here we can make this a little bit bigger, and I can zoom in a bit. And then here I can click on the different views within my app and open up this attributes panel. And then here I can see this edit text has an ID of to-do underscore title, which is going to be useful for the test that we're writing. And then I can also click on this save to do button, and I can see the text value, and I can also see the ID. So and I can add a to-do list item here. So let's say add a test to do, and you can see this is being updated. The layout inspector gets updated immediately, and once I save it, then I can also inspect this this view and see its ID, whether it's clickable, all of the different properties that I can use for within my test. So just a helpful tip for if you're writing UI tests with Espresso, you can definitely use the layout inspector to inspect the different views and also the layout hierarchy here on the left. Okay, so to get started writing our test, we're going to begin by opening up our apps build.gradle file. So this one here. And then inside of our file, I've already added the dependencies that we're going to be using. Here under the Espresso UI testing section that I added, we have this Espresso core dependency, which we added in the last video when we were testing the data access object. And so we don't need to re-add that here. So the new dependencies that we're going to need for today's test are this Android X test runner under using the Android test implementation, and we're going to need the rules from the Android X test library. So make sure you add those to your project and go ahead and hit sync. You'll also want to scroll up here and within our default config block, you want to make sure that you have test instrumentation runner, declaring our Android JUnit runner as the runner for our instrumented tests. And once our Gradle file is synced, we can go ahead and go to our Android test directory, and within our important to-dos directory, we can add a new Kotlin class. I'm going to call this to-dos integration test. And here we're going to create a new class, and we are going to annotate it with @run with Android JUnit 4 class. And we're going to say, we're going to declare a new rule. So get rule, and this is going to be an activity rule. This is going to be an activity scenario rule, and this is what's going to launch our main activity class. Now that we have our rule that launches the main activity, we can declare our first test using the test annotation from JUnit. We add a function, and this test is going to add a to-do item, and it's going to update it and delete it. So essentially it's going to cover all of the flows. This is a pretty simple app, so it's essentially going to cover all of the different core user flows that our app handles. If this were a bigger app, you probably want to have individual tests or smaller tests, but within this test we can it'll run pretty fast, and we can cover most of the core user flows. So the main structure of an Espresso test, usually want to start by matching or locating a view that you want to perform an action on, and you do that using an onView method that comes with Espresso. We can option return to import it, and then on view with, you can use an ID as the matcher. And then here we can say r.id, and believe it is the to-do title that we want to match, and then we want to perform a type text. We're going to type some text into this. We import that in there, and since we're going to be checking whether this text actually displays later, let's go ahead and just create a variable that holds our original title, and we'll call this by chocolate chip cookies. Fun fact, when I was first writing this test for this tutorial, I added an emoji here, a cookie emoji, to the string, and it looks like Espresso can't really handle emojis, which I found interesting. But so we'll just do a regular string here. So original title, and now we want to save this to-do item to our database and to our recycler view. So we're gonna go ahead and click the save button. So on view with ID, r.id of the save to do save button, we're going to perform a click that should add the to do to our recycler view. So add to do item, let's just say list item, and now let's run it just to make sure everything's working as expected. All right, so okay, so we have the test adding a new to-do item by finding the edit text that has the to-do title ID. It performs a typing action, which types this string, and then it performs a click on the save button to save the to-do item in the list. So now the most important part, because this test just does an action, but it doesn't actually verify anything. So we want to validate that we want to do an assertion to make sure that the action that we took had the expected result. So we're going to say on view with ID, and we're going to verify that the to-do name, now we need to use this check function, and then we say matches we can import matches here from our assertions, and we want to make sure that it matches with text, the original title. So essentially we want to make sure that we have a view that matches the title, that has the to-do name ID, and it matches the title that we entered. Now, I know that this is going to fail, but I want to demonstrate why it fails so that you can see how to debug Espresso tests as well. So this is going to fail because we already have a to-do list item in there. So it's going to tell us that we have multiple views with this to-do name ID. So we run our test. Oh, it looks like the previous to-do item disappeared. So it's probably going to pass. Great, so that passed. So I'm going to add another to-do list item just to demonstrate how this would fail if we had multiple to-do list items and how you can get around that. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a second to-do item. I'm gonna just duplicate this code here, and I'm gonna add another to-do list item here that's just gonna say test. So what this is doing here, we have one to-do item with this title, buy chocolate chip cookies, and then it's going to have another to-do item that just says test. And then we're going to check whether we have one to-do item that has, when we have one item that has, one item in our list that has this to-do name ID. It's going to result on having multiple of those because we added two of them. Great, so it adds the first item, buy chocolate chip cookies, save. Oh, well, it added the wrong text because because I said type text instead of replace text. That's another, if you say type text, it's just going to type on top of the text you already had, but if you say replace text, it's going to clear the field and then just replace it with whatever text you added. So let's take a look at our error message, and then here it says ambiguous view matchers exception. And if we look here, it prints out the view hierarchy, and it's pretty useful because it tells you which views matched the IDs that you're looking for. So here we can see that we have one view that has the resource name, to-do name, and it matches what we were looking for, the text buy chocolate chip cookies. This is the chocolate chip co-test cookies. But then if we go down here, we see that we have another view with that same to-do name resource ID, and then the text says buy chocolate chip cookies. So then you can see that you have two views that match your so here, if you have multiple views with the same ID, you can get a little more specific by using an all of. So and then here I'm gonna pass, so let me just import all of from Hamcrest core matchers, and then here we can match the ID, and then we can also say match any views that have that ID and they have this text, only the ones that have the text of this original title, and we want to check that it matches is displayed. So that way, if we have another view, and let's just replace this, replace text. That way we're gonna have one to-do item that has the original title of buy chocolate chip cookies, and then another one that has the title of test. But we're going to assert that the one that has the original title is displayed. So now when we run our test, okay, now we can see that it's going to enter the first to-do item. Now it enters the second to-do item, and it looks to, and then it matched correct to-do item in the list. So we actually don't want our test to be like this, but I wanted to just show you how to get around when you have multiple views with the same ID, and how you can get more specific in using this all of. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this second to-do list item. And here we just want to match one to-do item. And we just want to assert that it has great. So now we'll go back to our original test, which adds one to-do item, and then it asserts that it was added to the list. Now we want to update this to-do item, so update it. So we're going to on view. Actually, we can do this in a single. So once we found the to-do item that matches, so we're going to check that it matches the original title that we added, and then we're going to click on it, perform a click. This is going to take us to our edit to do fragment, so we can update it. So once we're in our edit to do fragment, we can go to add look for the view with the ID of, I believe it's also called to do name. And then here we're going to perform a replace text. And then we're going to update the title. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a new variable of new title. And we'll say buy ice cream. And then so we're going to replace this text with the new title. So once we've updated the title, we want to go ahead and click the update button. So on view with ID, r.id update button, and we want to perform a click. And once we update it, we want to make sure that it was updated. So now on view, we can just duplicate this exact action here, because we're going to look for an item that has the to-do name ID, but now it should have the new title that we updated. And so we just want to assert that the title of the to-do was updated when we run our test. Let's make sure that happens. So we enter a new to-do title, we save it, now we click on it, we update the title, and then we make sure that we assert that the title was updated. So here we can see that our test passes. And then lastly, we want to go ahead and delete this to-do and make sure that it gets deleted. Here we can say, well, after we found this to-do item, we can go ahead and we checked that the to-do item was added to the list. Now we can perform a click. Which will take us back to the edit to-do fragment. And now we want to delete our to-do item. So on view with ID, r.id delete button, perform a click. So we click on the delete button, and then we want to make sure that our to-do item got deleted from the list. So on view with ID, and to do this, we are going to actually look at our recycler view and make sure that it doesn't have that to-do item. So recycler view's ID is to-do's list, and we're going to check that matches. And what condition do we want to match? We want to match that it does not have any descendants with the title or with the text of the new title, which was the last title that our to-do item had. So we delete the to-do and we check that our recycler view does not have that to-do. Okay, so when we run our test, we can see that it adds a new to-do item, it saves it, clicks on it, updates the title, clicks on it again, and deletes it, and just verifies that it's no longer inside of our recycler view. Excellent, we see that our test passed. Okay, so this was a brief introduction on how to use Espresso for writing integration tests on Android. I hope you found it useful, and please, if you have any tips or suggestions, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.